Welcome to Leadershipisation, all things leadership. This is a conversation about leadership, communication, and mental fitness. I'm Beth Bergen. I'm an internationally awarded leadership and communication coach, and I work with both individuals and with their teams. So, let's get into it. I'm here, by the way, most every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So you can either watch me live then, or because it goes up onto this platform, you can watch the replay. Last week, we focused on LQ, or leadership intelligence, and we looked at that in terms of, in relation to IQ and EQ. So our intelligence quotient and our emotional intelligence. And what we learned last week, and this is kind of bringing together a number of the things that we've been talking about, but what we learned is that it's all about being flexible enough and fluid enough to be able to adapt your style to suit the situation. And sometimes that situation can be a person. So it's important to do that. One of the biggest issues that I find that my coaching clients present with is, how do I deal with tough conversations? How do I manage those tough conversations that I need to have at some stage? Now, those tough conversations might be with your peers, they might be with your superiors, or they might be with those that you're managing, or other people in your life or in your community. Yeah? So I wanted to start first by looking at what I think are three overarching aspects of managing tough conversations. The first one is that you need to have some clarity. You need to have clarity. And you actually need to have clarity about a number of things, some of which we'll talk about later. The first thing that I believe that you must have clarity about is how you're going to show up. How are you going to show up? What role are you taking in this conversation? So some of the prep that we'll have a look at in a moment will help to inform this clarity. But be aware how you show up is something that's really important in every single conversation, but doubly important in a tough conversation. That's the first one. The second thing is, I want you to have control. I want you to have control of your own emotions. And that means that you need to have, or what will flow out from that is control of the situation. So having that control of your emotions is vital. Now, if you can't control your emotions, then what can you do to control the situation? Are there others you can call on? Are there other things that you can do? And the third overarching factor in managing tough conversations is confidence. Have some confidence in you. Be prepared to back yourself. Be prepared to back the fact that I'm going to work this situation out. However difficult it is, I'm going to work it out. So, with those three things in mind, let's get moving. The first thing, and the vital thing for you to do, is to work out, what is your outcome? What is the outcome that you want? What is your intention in having the tough conversation is another way of putting that. And if you can work out what that intention is, what the outcome is that you want, then that will allow you to plan the key parts of the conversation. One of the most difficult things in tough conversations is that we get off track. So I'm always talking to my coaching clients about What's your outcome? What's your intention? Let's start planning the key parts of the conversation. Let's make some notes. Let's put some key words down so that they're reminders for you to keep you on track and to note the things that you thought about as being important for this conversation before the conversation started. Because really often we start the conversation and our mind goes into kind of like a haze sometimes. We can't remember the awesome things that we thought we needed to say from 5 minutes ago. Yeah? And so if you've got those notes there, they serve as a reminder for you and a guide. It's really easy to go off on a tangent, particularly if what you do is start to react to whatever the person you're speaking with is saying to you. Okay? That can lead you off on a totally different tangent, and you don't want that to happen. The third thing, the third kind of step towards achieving this outcome is to be prepared to acknowledge your own emotions. Be prepared to acknowledge that you're feeling a little bit nervous. You don't have to acknowledge it to anybody else except yourself. But often my experience is that if you acknowledge it to yourself, it kind of makes it easier. Say it out loud. Oh, I feel really nervous about this. By acknowledging it, you're getting it under control because you're giving it a name. The reality is, if it feels hard to you, it's because it is hard. Yeah? The more often that you have these conversations, the easier it's going to get. However, it will never get completely easy because often these conversations are full of emotion for the other person. Often they have a consequence for someone else. And as a leader, I would expect you to feel compassionate about what's going on in that other person's life. Yeah? Next thing for you to think about is this. What are the logistics? Where are you going to have this conversation? And when are you going to have this conversation? Because those two things are vital. What's the environment that you're choosing to have it in? Is there some privacy around it? Are you having a really difficult conversation on a Friday so that they've got time over the weekend to reflect on it? Are you having this conversation at the beginning, at the end, or in the middle of the day? Like let's kind of work it out. Let's work out where and when and add that to your little plan. And then you've checked it out. It's not being used by someone else. And you're going to have some privacy to have the conversation. A really awesome technique when you're having a tough conversation is to share your observations. Now, what you do is you say, is it okay if I share some observations with you? And you're asking their permission. Most everyone will say, oh yeah, okay. Now, when you're sharing observations, what that means is that you're taking the emotion out of it. You're not blaming. You're not saying, I saw you doing this. You're just saying, here are my observations. I've noticed you walking past my office to go to the coffee bar, up to 10 times a day. I'm wondering how much time that's using up. Share your observations. One of the things that I'm observing is that everyone seems to be really slow to arrive to the meeting. And when you're leading the meeting, you wait for them all to get there, which means that we don't start for 15 minutes. Oh, and everyone keeps getting later and later. That's your observation. Because we don't start for 15 minutes. Yeah. That probably wasn't the best example because it sounded a little bit blaming to me, so I can't take it back. So, yeah, please make sure that in sharing observations, you're not youing someone, because that's the same as blaming. The next one is to have a run through, practice, manage it yourself, be thinking, what do I need this to look like? What do I need this to sound like? What are the key points that I want to get through? And that will help you with your planning. Make sure that you use and observe and enjoy the power of the pause. Pause to give people time to think. Sometimes when we're nervous, we talk too fast. So make sure that you're pausing and giving people time to process or time to respond, particularly if you've asked them a question yourself. Bearing in mind the 3 things that I talked about earlier, which are clarity, who you're going to turn up as and what you want your outcome to be, control, and confidence. Manage your own expectations. Manage your own expectations in this and control the things that you can control. You can't control how other people are going to respond. You can't control how they're going to hear what it is that you're saying to them. Can't control that at all. You can only control the things that you can control. Now, because we're never quite sure how other people are going to respond to us, one of the things that we often do as leaders, and this is just as relevant for business owners as it is for team leaders or department leaders or section heads or whatever your title might be, we get into this justification cycle. And we feel that what we have to do is justify the decisions that we're making. I'm happy for you to provide an explanation, and I would really encourage you to provide an explanation. But it shouldn't be a long-winded one, and neither should it be a long justification about, oh yeah, well, we've had to do a whole lot of budget cuts and I'm really sorry about this. What that will do is move you into a position where you're actually weakened as a leader. And it will add to your nerves. It will make the whole thing more nerve-wracking than it needs to be. It will potentially give the other person some kind of hope that you were just kind of raising this as a little bit of an issue. And it will absolutely weaken your message. So no justification. It's interesting because tough conversations are never actually going to get easy. They will get easier, and there's likely to be a few less nerves. However, as I said, while you may get better at using the framework, you can only ever control what you can control. So while you might have clarity about how you're going to turn up, while you might have confidence in the framework that you're using because you've used it before and it's worked really well for you, and while you may be awesome at controlling what you can control, they're never, ever really going to get awfully easy. You'll get better at it. You'll feel the impact of it less. But because they're unavoidable and because you never know what the situation is really going to be or who the individual is going to be in advance, you're never going to get completely awesome at them. It's not a goal that probably you want to be achieving. What I talk to my clients about a lot is to really encourage them to have the tricky conversations before you need to have the tough ones. And what I mean by that is talk about the things that are going on when they're going on. Raise those issues early rather than letting them percolate. And you'll find that you can have those tricky conversations, and you can have them with confidence, and you can have them with clarity, and you can have them where you're in control of what's going on. And if you have the tricky conversations, then that saves you having the huge tough conversation. My advice is prepare. The better prepared you are, the better outcome is more likely. My final thing about this is this about tough conversations is this. If it's a really, really tough conversation, have a think about what you're going to do afterwards. Is this a great time to treat yourself to a massage, or to go out for dinner, to go and spend some time with people that you really care about? Or maybe the way that you deal with the impact that it has for you is to just put your head down and do some really deep and valuable work. But no, have a think, what am I going to do after this conversation? Yeah, because at some stage it will impact you. Okay, I hope you've got something out of that. Let me know how you go. I'll be really interested to hear if you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, pop them down below. If you've watched this as a replay, would love it if you'd put #replay. Yeah, tough conversations, tough topic, but with some planning, you're most likely going to get a better outcome. Okay, another reminder, I've spoken to you about this before. Deliberate reset. Deliberate reset, I'm taking applications now for the next intake. The applications are by interview only. However, I'm happy to have a call with you first just to explain it to you in lots of depth, particularly focused on the benefits to you. Very briefly, it's a 10-week program. The reason that it's by interview only is I don't take more than 8 people to do it. So 8 people who are aspiring or current leaders. And what we do over this 10 weeks is we focus on building your leadership intelligence. So it's all around tailoring the content to meet where you are in your leadership journey. And we do that supported by the fabulous Positive Intelligence app, which is all about your mental fitness. So we're going to develop your leadership intelligence on 3 fronts. 1, your leadership skills. 2, your communication skills as a leader. And 3, your mental fitness. Let me know. DM me. Reach out. And I'm happy to send you a booking link so that we can have a conversation about it. If what you'd then like to do is to have a more formal interview, we'll follow up with that. Okay, great. Thank you so much to anybody who has joined me today or has watched this. I really appreciate the feedback that I'm getting from people. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you here next week.